In this video series, I will show you how you can increase the power of Pages, Numbers, and Keynote by combining them into power workflows. Not only are Apple's iWork apps, Pages, Numbers, and Keynotes really powerful apps in their own domain, but using them together and exchanging data between them unlocks the real potential for powerful workflows. So let's find out how understanding the paradigm of each app allows you to use them in ways you haven't thought possible before. In this video, you will learn why the three apps are built around a core framework, about the fundamental paradigms of special functions and canvas types, as well as how data is copied from one app to the other. We then start the journey with Numbers and define why it is a fundamentally different program than Microsoft Excel and shouldn't be used like Excel. We will start exploring the fundamental principles of the UI, which are shared amongst all three apps, the basics of navigation, as well as a first look at the Numbers-specific table module. So, without further ado, let's dive in. And let me start this by doing something you might not expect from a course about a spreadsheet app. Let's not talk about tables and functions and formulas for some time. I first want to impress upon you that Numbers is not Excel. It is not a competitor to Excel. In fact, these are two fundamentally different applications by the underlying paradigms. The Excel paradigm, and that of most other spreadsheet apps, is that you have a document container, which contains sheets, which each contain exactly one table consisting of a more or less infinite number of rows and columns. The Numbers paradigm is that you have a document container which contains sheets, so far so good, which functions as an infinite canvas for all kinds of objects. Now, did you notice that I did not use the word table in the Numbers paradigm? That is because tables are not the predominant structural element they are within Excel. A table in Numbers is just one of many types of objects you can put on the canvas. And you don't need to even have one table to create a Numbers document. Let me just blow your mind now and create a new blank Numbers document. As you can see, it is not really blank because Apple put a default table in it. By selecting the whole table, by clicking in the top left table selector icon and then pressing delete, you can get rid of that initial table. And voila, you have an infinite canvas where you can put text, images, shapes, videos, audios, handwriting and drawings, and yes, if you want, you are even allowed to enter one or multiple tables and graphs on that canvas. So it is very important that you understand that while everything lives in an infinite table in Excel, in Numbers everything lives on an infinite canvas. In Numbers it is called sheet. In fact, you should really see all three of the Office or iWork apps, Numbers, Pages, and Keynote, now as one app with different specializations. They differ in two categories: special features and paradigm of the canvas. Pages has the paradigm of the printable canvas. So you have all your usual paper-based sizes, A4, A3, letter, and so on. Also, it has a lot of functionality which is needed for writing long-form text, cards, mail merge, and so on. Keynote has the paradigm of the presentable canvas. So everything you see on a slide is meant not to scroll, but be presentable and move through with transitions. Therefore, transitions and everything you need to present these slides are its special functionality. Numbers has the paradigm of the infinite canvas. That's why I chose it as the best competitor for freeform, because both share the same canvas paradigm. Its special functions comes from adding tables, connecting them through references, calculations, filters, and charts. But what a lot of people don't know is that you can move objects from one app to another. You can, for instance, move all objects which are common to all of these three apps, like text, images, shapes, drawings, audios, etc., from one app to another, and you can edit and manipulate them in the target app. The odd one is Freeform, which is currently in beta. Copy from or to Freeform currently turns everything into an image, so you are unable to change anything after copying. I hope Apple changes that soon before it goes out of beta, but we will see. Where it becomes a bit tricky is with tables and charts. Yes, copying a table from Numbers to Pages or Keynote works. It stays a table in these apps and calculation still works and you can edit them, but you can only edit the formulas within these tables currently on the Mac version of Pages and Keynote, not on the iPad versions, and of course not on the iOS versions. And if you have a chart associated with a table, the chart won't update if you change the data in Pages or Keynote, because in these apps the chart functionality is a bit simpler and the data is not linked to another table but a part of the chart object, as you can see in this example. So the good news is that you can bring data from one app to the other, and I use it often with numbers, where basically all tables with calculations in them always are created in numbers by me first and then copied into the report and pages or the presentation in Keynote. However, you have to remind yourself that objects will be copied into the app the way they behave in that app, especially with tables and charts. Now with that in mind, let's now go into numbers. Notice that I will often use the iPad as the primary example, but the Mac version is very similar with some slight changes or additions, while the iPhone version has a different layout due to the size. But all elements are easy to find there too. Since Numbers is a classical document-oriented app, the first decision is where to place the documents you will create. You can go to or create a document at whichever file provider is supported. It could be locally on the device or with iCloud, Dropbox, OneDrive, Google Drive or whatever. You see here that the left side of the file menu looks a lot like the Files app on my iPad, and indeed it is nearly identical with all locations, favorites and tags I have in the Files app. So let's create a folder on my desktop where we will place the new documents. With the plus icon, I can create a new Numbers document. Next to it is the new folder icon, which allows me to create a nested folder structure as deep as I like. Next to that is the View icon, which allows me to see the file structure as icons, lists or columns, and which gives me sorting and view options. I can select multiple documents here and then share, duplicate, move or delete them. And under More, I can also copy, add tags or create a new folder with the selected items. When you select a Numbers document, you also have access to previous versions of the document, since Pages, Numbers and Keynote support versioning. You can preview or restore one of the earlier versions here. Also, you can search files using Spotlight here. You can refine the search by selecting the location to search. In my case, Recent, iCloud Drive or the folder Desktop. Also, a long tab on a document gives you some options like rename, duplicate, creating a new folder with the item, adding tags, as well as copy, move, and sharing the file. And of course, at the bottom is where you can delete it. Okay, that's for the file menu, which is the same for all three iWork apps. Let's create a new Numbers document now. For every new document, Numbers gives you some templates to start from. They are grouped into these categories. Recents, always on top, then Basic, Personal Finance, Personal, Business, Education. I will later show you how to create a template. Once you've done that, you will also at the end have a section called My Templates. You might take a look at these templates to get a feel for what is possible with Numbers and how you should set up your documents and tables. For now, let's select a blank template. In the top row, starting from left, you have the arrow to get back to the document selector, then the name of the document. With the arrow down, you can share, rename, move the document. Also, you can set a password, hide comments, change the language and region, setting, export the document, or print it. In the middle, you have the object selector. Here you select which object to put next on the canvas. You have tables, charts, shapes, and images. The image one is funny because here you can select way more than images. You can also select video, audio, web video, image galleries, including files, drawings, and equations. To the right, you have your collaboration menu, the share menu, the undo button, the format menu, the sorting and filtering menu for tables, the three-dot menu with options for searching, setting, help, and customizing the toolbar. And on the far right, you have the option to switch between reading and editing mode. In the second row from the top, you have your sheet list. Here you can select, edit, and add sheets to your document. And finally, underneath it, you have the canvas where you can place all the objects you want. If you haven't done so already, let's first get to a blank canvas by removing the default table. You can do so by clicking in the top left corner of the table on a small circle within a circle symbol and selecting Delete. Voila! A beautiful empty canvas. If you want to save this blank canvas, click on the down arrow next to the file name in the top left. There select Rename and give it a new name. I call it Blank Canvas. Then from the same menu, select Export and then Numbers template. Select Add to Template Chooser, and from now on you will find it under My Templates at the bottom of the template chooser. Or if you selected it recently, it will be at the top under Recents. Let's start by putting there a basic shape. Let's pick a square and another one. You see that you can move them, align them, and even connect them with a connector line, also from the Shape menu. Now we have 3 objects on the canvas, 2 squares and a line. Selecting any of these gives us a context menu for the basic actions possible on the shape. This context menu will have different items for each object type. For instance, if I add an image to the board, you can see that with an image I now have the option to remove the background. The common functions here are cut, copy, delete, select objects, which allows to select multiple objects, as well as comment and link. Cut, copy and delete are obvious. Select objects allows you to select multiple objects for further edits. With a tap, you add an object to the selection. Tapping again on it removes it from the selection. You can also drag your finger to select multiple objects. Once you are done with the selection, you press Done. Your objects will still be selected. When you have selected multiple objects, you can group them. Selecting a group allows you to ungroup them. Grouping and later multi-level grouping is a powerful concept which I will come back to later. Also, you can add a comment to any object or group. This will add a little yellow square on the top left corner. You can even reply to a comment, which is awesome in a collaborative environment. You can add a link to any object, which turns it into a trigger for the link. Working with the Format menu. If you select an object, you can further edit it via the Format menu by selecting the brush tool on the top right. The available options depend on the type of object. With the Style tab, you can change the color of the object, its border, shadow and reflection, as well as its opacity. Also, you can add a title and a caption to the object. Let's give the square a nice red color. You can select it from the preset at the top or click on the fill item to get to the color selector. Here you can go for some nice presets, select individual colors from a color palette, or even from a color wheel on page 2. There you also find the color selection tool, which allows you to select the color from any point on the screen. By the way, whenever you see a greater than sign in a menu, that means that there are further options coming up if you click on it. Also, you can go for gradient fill or even add an image to fill the object. Play around with it if you like. With the Text tab, you change everything for the text within an object. Let's add some text to the square by double-clicking on it and typing some text. You can even add line breaks here for multi-line text. By tapping outside the square and then again on the square, you select the object again. Now you can format the text by selecting a font, changing the size, color of the text as well as its alignment, horizontal and vertical, within the object. You can also add a bullet or list style to the text, indent or outdent each line, change the spacing and even add multiple columns. With a margin, you edit the space between the object's borders and the text, and with drop cap, you can even create one of those fancy big initial letters for your text. And the Arrange tab allows you to move the selected object to the front or back, which becomes important once you start layering objects. You can also see and edit the width and height of the object and the X and Y coordinates. By the way, the X and Y always refer to the top left point of the object. This comes in handy if you want to make a group of items the same size. Just select them and edit the width or height here. Constraint properties allows you to keep the ratio between width and height when resizing an object. If you deselect this, you can resize the object freely. If you selected multiple objects, you can also group them here. Next, you can rotate the object either by 45-degree increments or completely freely by selecting one of the top options at the bottom of the circle. By selecting the Hashtag tab, you can enter a numeric value. Next, you can flip the object horizontally or vertically, or you can lock the object, which makes sure that you won't move it or change it. One application for this option is if you want to create a background, like a floor plan, where you want to place and move objects on without it being affected. Next, you have the Align and Distribute options. If you only select a single object, this allows you to place it either at the left or top side of the canvas. If you selected multiple items, it allows you to align the elements to the left side, vertical center, right side, top, horizontal center, or bottom. When you selected multiple objects, you can also combine them here. Combining means 2 or more objects will create a new object. The difference is that grouping is temporary and each object stays individual. With combining, you create a new shape. It is permanent. The 4 options define what happens with overlapping areas. From left to right, all areas will build a new form, or only the overlapping areas will build a new form, or the top form is used to cut away from the bottom form, and the last option means that overlapping areas will be removed. And with some objects you have even more options. Like with the rounded rectangle, you can change the corner radius. This format menu is one of the most often used ways of manipulating items, so it is crucial that you understand its power. And also, this format menu works the same in Numbers, Pages, and Keynotes, so once you learn to work with it, you can use it in all of the three apps. So play around with it by putting shapes, connecting them, grouping and combining them, adding images, audio, web videos, and see the different options they have within the format menu. Once you have some more stuff on the canvas, it is important that you can easily move around. You can easily zoom in and out by pinching or by the spreading gesture. Pinching allows you to zoom out to 50% and spreading allows you to go into 400%. Unfortunately, on the iPad, 50% is the maximum zoom out level, while with Apple's Freeform app you can get to 10%. And dragging with one finger over the canvas area moves you around. You can move objects around by selecting them, then they have the 8 blue dots which allow you to resize them. Tapping and holding in the middle and then dragging allows you to move them. Tapping and then holding for a second on the canvas allows you to drag select multiple objects, which you then can move around by tapping, holding and dragging on one of the selected members. If I need to move a collection of items frequently, I group them together first. Great, now you know how to navigate a number sheet. I didn't start it with a table because I wanted to make sure that you understand the paradigm and powers of numbers first. And I need another video to really go into tables, but I wanted to quickly make you acquainted with the table object. So let's select a standard table. From the table tool, you can select different types of tables and you can swipe to get the same collection of table templates in different colors. Let's get through the 6 table templates quickly. I have inserted them here for you. Table 1 is the most basic table with one header row and header column, shown by the colored background. Table 2 only has a header row but no header column. Table 3 has no header row or column. Table 4 has a header row and column and one footer row. Table 5 has a header row and the left column is pre-filled with checkboxes. And table 6 is an example of a stock table. All of these options can be changed later, so I nearly always use option 1, the top left selection, and change header row and column as well as footer in the format menu. In this example, you can see again the fundamental difference between Excel and Numbers. You can have multiple independent tables on a canvas. You can select and move a table by tapping on the top left selector symbol. You can add or remove rows and columns by the circle icon with the 2 lines at the right or bottom of the headers. Before I close my introduction to tables, I need to make sure that you get the fundamental difference. In Excel, you often put everything in one table, which leads to the creation of these ugly walls of data. In Numbers, you create an individual table for any unit of information. As an example, in Apple's Simple Budget template, you see that you have 3 tables here: money in, money out, and money left over. When you double click on the amount of money left over, which is cell B2, you see the formula. It refers to the tables called income and outcome. Now, if you select the other tables and go to the format menu, you see under the table tab that the titles are switched off. Switching them on reveals the titles, which are called income and expenses. There you see that you can refer to any table by its table name, followed by 2 colons and then the cell name. Here is another tip why it is important to name your headers and footers. They play a big role in making your formulas readable. Let's go to our example. If you take a look at the example, it looks a lot like Excel, with a format of table name, colon, colon, letter of the column, and number of the row. But let me show you what happens if we make just one small adjustment. I will go into the header of the 2 tables, and from cell actions I will select unmerged cells. Now I can access the header cell B1 in each of these tables. What if I enter a column title for column B here, like my currency, euro? Now that I have done that, let's take a look at the formula. Wow, it looks different. No more A1 formula crap. Now you have the cell addresses changed to title of column plus title of row, and if that description is unique, we don't even need the title of the table. Of course, not only will Numbers show you where the value comes from if you click on it, but if you change one of the titles in the tables, Numbers will reflect that in the formula. This, in my mind, makes creating understandable formulas so much easier that I highly advise you to create unique and readable names for all your columns, rows, and tables. Okay folks, that's it for today. In the next video, I will do a deep dive into tables and charts, but I needed you to get the paradigms of numbers first, in order to really become a creative numbers user. If you like this video, please hit like, and if you want to be noticed when the next installment in this series comes, then please also press the subscribe button. If you have any questions or would like to mention what new insights you got from this video, please leave a comment below. And if you haven't watched my 2-part master course on freeform so far, you can do so after this video. So, until next time, see you around. Bye.